Well, good evening. Welcome to Maryville Connects. We are so grateful you're here this evening on this beautiful sunny day here in Chicago. And I am just really delighted to bring back a guest, our wonderful team member, Katrina Ivory, here at Maryville Academy. You're a star for our families and our staff. And we are going to talk a little bit about we're going to talk today about parenting and the role that Katrina has specifically created and is involved with at Maryville Academy and in our program as we try to lift families up in times where we know that they are struggling with many different balls in the air. And as I like to frequently say, we all need our circle of support. And I think that, Katrina, I'd love to hear from you before we get into some of this deep dive kind of conversation. Talk to our audience a little bit about your role at Maryville and what you've been up to.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Katrina Ivory, and currently I am serving as a parenting coach for the Recovery Home Network, which is under Maryville Academy. I do a little bit of everything, and I'm very grateful to work with the clients and the children that I work with and the amazing team members that we have. I've been at Maryville for over 30 years, and I've served in many capacities. And personally, I think Maryville is an amazing place with an amazing mission, and they support their employees with having the tools, the resources, and the assistance that they need to make sure that we can serve our families with dignity and respect and with the use of best practices.
Well, and that what a testament to, first of all, the organization, but also, as you described all of your years, just the richness of your experiences. And in your role now, what you're doing, as you said, you wear a lot of different hats. I imagine that your everyday is a mixture of a bunch of different things. So maybe you could share with us a little bit about what is your typical day as a parenting coach at our St. Monica Recovery Program. And we could talk a little bit later about some of the other parenting programs that you're involved with. But let's just start there.
On a daily basis, I do observations with the parent-child engagement. I facilitate parenting education groups. I meet with the parents. I create activities with the parents and just engage the families on a daily basis, which I love.
Well, that's quite evident, not only from the way I see your face light up, but also when I see you with many families over the years. It's just been a real special treat to witness that with you. And I'm just kind of curious these days, what are parents' curiosities about their children these days? Are you finding it to be the typical questions about development, or are you finding that there's other curiosities or questions that they have when they come to you?
You know, I'm a firm believer that people do the best that they can with what they have. A lot of the parents that I work with in our service, sometimes they're not as confident as in their abilities, thinking that they have to be these perfect parents, and there is no such thing. I often tell them I've been a parent for over 40 years, and I'm still learning how to be a parent. In this world where situations change, our children change, lifestyle changes, we're bound to make a few mistakes. And that's okay. That's okay. That's what being human is. They're often asking about their children's growth and development, about their roles as parents. about the world around them and how can they maneuver and be the best parents they can be in this world that we live in.
It's quite complicated, isn't it?
It can be, yes.
And
Yes.
I also recognize that, and I see you with families and or talking to a parent or with a child, and we also know through research in terms of how children learn and evolve that their relationships, not just for the children but also for the parents, are really quite critical. And as I started to say, a circle of support is really important. And I would, you're part of their circle of support. And how do you navigate that with families who may have been a little bit more isolated, that has sort of put them in maybe more vulnerable situations? How do you navigate those complicated experiences to help build their circle of support?
First of all, I let them know that I am there to support them. There is no judgment. Whatever their life experiences have been, whatever their culture and traditions have been, I am there to support them. My goal is to teach them that there are other ways. They choose what is best for their families. It's truly about meeting people where they are. It's not just a phrase. It's being culturally competent, understanding that not only is it about the way we look, the environments we came out of, it's about accepting people for their experiences and saying that it's okay. And it's about building those relationships. You know how important those relationships are. A lot of the parents that I've worked with have been in environments that may have been a little bit judgmental and not as accepting. And I think we do something a little bit different.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that way, that we do things a little different, meaning particularly in this day and age when I talk to, a variety of different individuals about this, that, there comes a time that I think we get challenged with the complications where things become more transactional.
Yes.
And, because certain things need to get done. And by slowing things down a bit, it can really be a game changer when there's some reflection, there's some thought-provoking questions, to just maybe pause for a minute, even when it feels like the house might be burning down. And can you speak to that at all?
In the day and age that we live in, everything is just quick, fast, and in a hurry. As you said, people need to be able to take their time to get to know you. There must be a level of transparency in building relationships with the families, with the parents, with the children. Basically, I think for us, it's about what you see is what you get. We are truly there to serve. And I say we because I think that I work with phenomenal people. I don't do it by myself. As a team, regardless of whatever site it is, I think we are truly there to service the individuals that we work with.
Well, and I think that the environment that you're describing, our Maryville St. Monica Recovery Home, is really unique in the sense that this was designed specifically to keep parents and children together as the family's healing. And what you've just described is a healing environment. And that can look very special when there's intentional decisions made about what the environment's going to look like, what it's going to recognize of what's important. And let me just, ask you, can you give an example or two about how the environment that is created that is special for families?
Many of the parents that I work with, even as children, they didn't have safe play spaces. Um, I think the Recovery Home Network was very intentional in designing, ensuring that there was a safe place for the parent-child interactions and the communal space, even the kitchens, which look very homey, that the women go cook in and the staff cook in. So it was designed to be a home. It was designed to have some and structure and routines, some which to me is very important in feeling safe and secure, not only for the children but for the family as a whole. And for many of our parents, not only the children but the parents, this is the first environment that they've had that has really had some structure and routine, and they feel safe.
Well, and I think that safety then begins to build the trust, which then begins to create some good habits.
Yes.
Because in this particular environment, this is a step in the process, right? This is a holding place of healing, which is then going to hopefully translate to when they get their own place, and then create that within their own home environment. So that way, when the children are getting older and they're making decisions, well, they're making decisions on their own right now anyway, but that supportive network that's more intense right now will sort of move away, and then those other community resources can then maybe fill in some of those gaps for families to build some relationships. And why don't you share a little bit about what you've been doing with outreach? Because I know you do a lot of outreach out in the community.
I do. I actually do a parenting education in the community, as well as support some of the needs of the families, such as clothing, as diapers, just extending ourselves. And our clients are part of our community. So I often tell them, I'm not just here while you're on site. When you leave, we're available. The relationship has been formed, and we're there as long as you need us, as long as you want us to be there.
And what a environment for someone to know that we have your back and you can always pick up the phone and call. And Maryville has been in our community in many different types of programs for 141 years. And what we have created in this day and age is a program that is designed to nurture that relationship, which is paramount, that is going to lay the foundation as the children grow. And parents, this may be their first child, this could be their third child, but each of those relationships may look a little bit different. The needs may be different. I know that there's one particular parenting program that really has launched in the last couple of years now, the Chicago Parent Program. Can you talk a little bit about that partnership and how what that's about? Give us a little bit of insight into that.
So Chicago Parenting Program is a evidence-based program created by USC. It's an amazing program. It's very interactive. It allows the parents to guide the program, to say. So for each session, there's 12 sessions. Each session consists of a different topic, and the parents are really engaged. It's an environment of them telling their truths and not being judged. At the same time, they're learning about early childhood development as well as what's appropriate discipline, and reduction of parenting stressors. It's a great program. And I have to say, most of the parents who really, really enjoy the program, they enjoy it. They break bread together, they talk, they laugh, they cry. and we're there to support them.
Well, what you just described is an experience. So, families are coming to you 12 different times. So there's some ongoing understanding that this isn't a one and done type of, let's give this information out and then it's understood and then life is happy as a parent. It doesn't, we all know that it doesn't work that way, but it's not transactional. And
No.
we know, particularly with young children, that they learn through their experience.
Yes.
And, anybody who has, been through different types of traumas or different really hard things in life, that many times in order to heal from that, there has to be a shift in the type of experiences to help that. And what you just described is a very welcoming, warm experience that will allow people to share and to kind of figure out how is it that they want to be now moving forward. And, you and I have talked about this before, but, as a parent, what are your values? And that seems like such a big question. It is. But it can come down to like very simple, everyday things. And I bet that that's some of the things that are being nurtured in those groups.
Most definitely it is. And again, when people, I'm a firm believer that people do the best they can with what they have until they're taught something different or exposed to something different, then there may be a shift. And often with the parents, once they engage in the parenting education program or portions of the program, you see that shift.
Mm-hmm.
You see those lights go off, and they actually say, you know what, I don't have to be perfect. I'm doing the best I can. I'm going to utilize the resources I have, and I'm going to try to be the best person I can be.
Well, and that's really that's humanity. It's really about all people and all parents, whether you're talking about, everywhere in this world,
Yes.
when you consider from a cultural perspective, all the different ways in which a parent and a child may be together and grow together. So how does that look ideally when we know how things are going to happen, no matter where you live or what neighborhood or what zip code, or how we can tap into those particular resources that are going to be the right fit. That's another dynamic that, I've experienced working at Maryville, and as a parent myself, as a daughter, with my dad, how you can find the right fit when it comes to a pediatrician or an occupational therapist for a young child or a teacher. All those things, some of which you can have control over and perhaps not, but learning how to ask good questions and not to be afraid to ask the questions. I don't know, can you speak to that in terms of parents?
One of the things that we talk about is learning how to advocate for yourself and your children. Understanding what your needs are, what your support circle looks like, what you may need to add to your support circle, asking for help appropriately, being able to accept help, and knowing that's strength. Because sometimes it gets hard to need help and ask for it.
And sometimes we get stuck because we don't really know what we need.
Exactly.
And so maybe even having, of course, like yourself, I'm sure you have many conversations along the way about this, and what a gift that they have to have you be able to sort of process that a little bit and normalize this. I mean, all parents, no matter where they live, no matter what, some of these true basic sense of what's okay, what's not okay. And, one of the things that, you and I talked about a little bit is that's very pervasive issue right now is about, social media and
Yes.
screen time. And, we could do, there's books being written on this, and there's a lot of conversation about it now, which I think that's going to even be heightened when we think about how even our U.S. Surgeon General, in the last year has talked about how that has had an impact on our children, but also our parents, and that dance that parents are having to figure out, and it's confusing. It's very confusing, and I was sort of lucky. My kids sort of just started when things were starting, but to think about what parents are really having to experience now, where things are just so easily accessible, and managing just all of the securities and the safety when you think things are quite innocent. Any words of advice on that, or thoughts or things that parents are bringing to you?
Often it's the socialization piece, the emotional and socialization piece. Children not being able to look when someone's speaking to them, or not being able to greet someone. So it's important, I tell the moms all the time, observe your child. Maybe reduce it little by little, reduce the media time little by little, and more physical engagement, interaction. Let's play a board game. Let's just talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it, I actually did this with several parents, and they said, you know what, it's been a good thing. My child can actually look at someone and say hello.
Mm-hmm.
They
Beautiful.
can actually have a conversation. They play with their peers more. And those things are important. That's important to a person's growth and development. Not only children, but us as a whole. Being able to have a conversation. The human touch is what we all need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, as a parent, there's a lot of surprises along the way. And, we want our kids to be very curious. And, quite honestly, sometimes their questions we're uncertain on how to answer. But that's the breadth of how they're viewing the world, of just sort of this open space of wonderment. And
Yes.
we want to keep that. And yet at the same time, what are we going to expose them to in order to see that there is goodness in the world? And how are we going to nurture that? Like, what is that going to look like for a family? And like in terms of values, like, is learning a musical instrument really important? I was speaking to a parent the other day at a school, and she's got her little guy in track and race in running, and he's, I think, 6 years old, but this is his mojo. This is what he loves to do. And instead of saying, "Oh, we don't have time for that," she's going with it, and we don't know where that's going to lead, but she decided that she was going to value his voice and what he was interested in. It could be education, it could be reading, it could be drawing, all of those moments of curiosities.
Yes. At the end of the day, the things that we want to do is important to us. That's no less important to a child who wants to run track, or wants to play an instrument, or wants to paint a picture. And encouraging that and fostering that, those motivate them to be the best people they can be, and to find their way around in this world.
Yeah, and like, find their way, and where do we help them build their confidence? And
Yes.
when they do fall down, just like us adults, we fall down a lot. And I think there's some understanding out there that really one of the most important things that is critical to relationships is when mismatches, or we mess up, and we want to just like keep telling ourselves that was not good. Really, it's about how we're going to repair that. And repair can be you're just going to do better the next day. It could be saying sorry. There's just lots of ways to do those things. So just in our final reflection here, what would you want to say to our audience in terms of a takeaway from our conversation about, the strength of parents and what we can do to remind ourselves?
As a parent, you don't have to be perfect because it just doesn't exist. That's just the truth of the matter. It is okay to fall short and say, you know what, maybe I could have did this differently. And allow your children to know that it is okay to make mistakes. And let's just try it again. Enjoy your time with your children. They grow up so fast.
They sure do. And I'm so grateful that you were able to join us again today. And I hope we can bring Katrina back for more tips and her wisdom about, the love of parenthood. And we just want to thank you for joining Maryville Connects here on this wonderful sunny day here in March, and look forward to seeing you again in April. And have a good night.
Good night.